Riverside FM.
Hey there, it's Jitsie, and you're listening to the Crush Chronicles podcast, a safe space to discuss crushes and how they affect our lives. So grab your coffee or wine, pull out your old diaries, and settle in for today's topic and discussion. Welcome to the Crush Chronicles podcast. I am here to introduce the first guest of season 2. Born in sunny San Diego, she now calls the Dallas-Fort Worth area home. She's a big fan of the Dallas Stars, her Peloton bike, trash TV, Audible, horror movies, Halloween, and cozy video games. In her 20s, she lived for indie sleaze dance nights and live shows. These days, she has swapped her millennial chunky heels for sneakers and gets in 8,000 to 10,000 steps during daily walks around the neighborhood. Her honky-tonk singing husband, 2 dogs, and an incredible circle of family and friends mean everything to her. You can follow her adventures on Instagram at Erica_Michelle. I am delighted to introduce Erica, former high school bestie, to a show we never would have in our teenage dreams imagined I would be doing when we grew up. Erica, welcome.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. Like you just said, I can't believe that the things that I did in high school are now where other people can hear about them.
I know. And full disclosure to everyone, I did ask her first before I published anything. Also, if you're just joining this podcast for the first time, this podcast is based on the writings that I have done and posted on my Substack. It's by the same name. It's called the Crush Chronicles series, but you do not have to have read it first. The podcast questions are just inspired by the readings, but you do not have to have read it first to listen to the rest of the episode. Okay, so with every guest, we start with an ice crusher. So who is a current celebrity or fictional crush you have, or one that you had in your childhood?
Okay, let's see. There's so many, because as Rachel knows, I was and always will be boy crazy. My main crush now is my husband, but there's a couple celebrity crushes he knows I have, and he agrees with some of them. He's like, okay, I get it. I remember my first crush ever was Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell. I had a Zach and AC poster on my wall, which is interesting because, like, look-wise, never in life did I date anyone that looked like Zach Morris. But I really, really loved Saved by the Bell. So I think that was my very first crush. And then maybe now there's Ryan Gosling, of course. No explanation needed. I think the newest one is Brandon Skellner. So he's in This Ends With Us, the Colleen Hoover book turned movie adaptation with like Blake Lively. He plays Atlas, the good guy.
Okay.
He's in 1923, and then he's also going to be in The Housemaid, which is a Frida McFadden book. I read a lot of her. I call her like my trash TV of like Audible, like super easy to read thrillers. But he's going to be in The Housemaid with Sydney Sweeney. But yeah, so I think he's probably my new crush is Brendan Schuyler.
Cool. And I think you're not the only one.
I have one more, and I know you'll know this, Rachel. This one's like kind of out of the box, but they do say he's like the new unconventional heartthrob is Walton Goggins from The White Lotus. And I also watch Righteous Gemstones and anything Danny McBride. So I love him.
Oh my gosh, it's escaping my brain. The Fallout series one?
Yes, he's in that one
Have
too.
You watched that?
Yes.
Have you watched that? I'm assuming because I feel like that's totally up your alley.
Yes, he's the ghoul. Yeah, like the cowboy ghoul. Yeah. He's not conventionally, I guess, handsome, but his like charm and confidence and swagger, like he's just all over my Instagram now. Everyone's like, he's so sexy, and we don't know why, but he is.
It's kind of like you understand once you've been there. I get it too, even though he was a ghoul and like, hey there. I love that. Yeah. So I'm going to share one of mine. I don't know if we ever talked about this when we were in high school, but when I was little, more elementary school, I had a big crush on Brad Renfro. Do you remember him?
Does that name sound familiar?
So he was really big around the same time as Jonathan Taylor Thomas. I can see Erica Googling this right now. But sad story, he died really young, I think, from a drug overdose. So I feel like a lot of us who may have been aware of him when we were younger kind of forgot because he just died when we were still coming of age. But he was in Tom and Huck. Wait, did I say that right?
Yes, you did, because I have it on Google up.
Yeah, he was in Tom and Huck.
Yeah.
One of my first favorite like thrillers which was based on a book, was The Client, and he was the main character in The Client. It's still like one of my all-time favorite movies. And he was probably in a couple of other things, but he was just so cute. I think he was
Yes.
also in this really good movie called The Cure, I believe, which that
Hmm.
was a really sad movie, but it was a good movie. And yeah, in his death, I just one day was like, what the heck happened to him? I used to love him, and that's when I found out he had died really young.
I remember him now that I Googled him. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's a cutie.
He was a cutie. Yeah. Okay. So the ice has been crushed. Are you ready to walk down memory lane with me?
Yes, I have my
Yes.
seatbelt on.
Awesome. Good. I think we did that when we drove around too. I think we were safe.
Yes, always had our seatbelts on.
Okay. So I think you're the only person who has read every single Chronicle in the series, and I love you for that.
When you first started them, I think I texted you and I was like, I need more Crush Chronicles. I need them.
Yes, I was very, very happy that you did because one, it's already hard sharing stuff like that. You're just publishing your life of crushes. It's already hard, but you were just so excited and very enthusiastic and supportive. So I really appreciate that. I was also glad that it was well received, that you actually
Yes.
wanted more. So we're going to start with a review for people who are familiar with the show and kind of a recap. So I've written so far that, and all of these are published on my Substack at jitsie.substack.com. But the earliest one was Zach, and that was when I was in elementary school. I think it was in sixth grade. That's kind of like a short, sweet, innocent one. Then I wrote about Robbie and Blaine and Connor. And right now I'm in the middle of writing about Johnny. So the reason why Erica is a unique guest is because she was there for every single one of these crushes, except for Zach, because that was before I moved to Texas. All the other ones so far have occurred in Texas. Okay, so even though the series that this show is inspired by is about my past crushes, since you were my resident bestie, how did you feel when reading all of these stories that I suddenly decided to document and publish?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I was super excited. She texted me one day and she was like, hey, I'm gonna do this. Can I include you? If you don't want me to, that's fine. I can change your name, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, OMG, like, do it. I'm super ready, super excited. And then when I started reading them, high school in general was like whatever for me. I made grades, I like I made A's and B's like pretty easy, but I didn't like love the actual educational part of school. I was a regular high school kid and I cared about hanging out with my friends and like all of the fun we had in the hallways and like after school. So you were a huge part of that. And then, of course, we were teenage girls. So our crushes were a huge part of that too. So I just think it's so fun that, you're telling everyone our adventures that we had.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad. Okay, so season one had episodes with themes created from stories about Robbie, Blaine, and Zach. You weren't present for Zach, as I mentioned, but what do you remember most about the situation or situations around Robbie and or Blaine?
So, for Robbie, like barely remembered a lot of that because I think it was like very short-lived or one of the shorter
Yeah.
crushes that you had in high school. But then as I read a lot of it, it like came back to me, certain memories and days came back to me, especially you word vomit in front of him. I think that's even the title of it. And I remember you used to word vomit a lot. Like
Oh my God.
that was something that you like did a lot. And you also did it loudly. Like it was
I
like
did? I don't remember.
yeah.
I must have blocked it.
Whatever was an embarrassing thing that you said, you turned it up like 5 octaves higher most of the time. So it made it even funnier, like in real life. So I remember that part with Robbie. I remember a lot more of Blaine because one, I think I knew him better. So Rachel was a year ahead of me. We met when I was a sophomore and you were a junior, correct? Yes. So Rachel was a big part of my sophomore, junior year, and then sadly she moved away my senior year. So those were like our big 2 years of all of our adventures. But I remember a lot more of
Wow,
Blaine
when
'cause
you put it like that, I feel like I was there so much
oh, I
longer.
know.
I think that's the first time we've ever measured it as 2 years. It feels so much longer than that.
Oh yeah, when I think of you now and like my husband, hasn't gotten to meet you or anything, but I'm just like she was my best friend in high school and like I have so many like memories of us. It actually is weird to say it was only 2 years because it seemed like a
Yeah,
lifetime.
it does.
Um
Yeah.
yeah. But no, yeah, I remember Blaine a lot better because I think I knew him a little bit more. I was in theater a little bit with Rachel and so was he. I was on yearbook, but I had like the easy yearbook task. I worked like 2 times the entire year or something like that.
You did?
Yeah.
It always looked so profesh because you were like the business manager or something.
Yes, exactly. But I literally just made sure everyone's names were on their yearbooks and that they paid for them. And then when everyone got their yearbooks, if they, for some reason, they couldn't find theirs, like they go to get theirs and they're like, where's mine? I paid for it. I would have to figure out the business, like, the accounting part of it. But yeah, I got to sit on the couch most of the time and not do anything.
I
But yeah.
remember you doing things. I feel
Oh,
like you're
thanks.
way more important than you're giving yourself credit for.
Thanks, Rachel. But yeah, so Blaine, I remember that a lot. I remember there you talk about the lip sync that we had in theater and where he directed something and he picked you to kind of be the girl that the boys are fighting over. And it was like a surprise. You like sat in the audience, which I'm like, that's very center stage when I was like rereading it. I was like, oh, she was like the main girl with the boys fighting over her. Yeah, but I didn't know him as well as you did. So I think there's other crushes along the way that I was a lot closer to as friends. So I remember those stories a lot more.
Yeah, which means I might need to have you back on later episodes
Yeah.
of the podcast to further discuss. I'm just still kind of reeling about the word vomiting thing. Now that you say it, it sounds totally me that I would do that a lot. But I guess because this was the only one that I really remember because it was just such a clear memory. Oh my gosh, that's so hilarious. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so speaking of very distinct memories, I have one that is of me and you when I had a crush on Robbie. And you're right, that was a very, very short crush. It was like 5 minutes. So I had just recently informed you back then that I had a crush on this guy who had joined journalism with me and had started showing up in theater. But like you said, you were a grade younger than me, didn't have any classes with him and hadn't seen him yet. We were walking down the hallway upstairs toward my locker, which was, I remember, right next to my AP Chem class. And Robbie walked past us. So I turned to you and mouthed while pointing at Robbie's back. And this is something me and Erica did all the time. Whenever we saw cute guys that we knew in the hallway, but I was like, that's him. And no context needed. You didn't miss a beat. You caught up to him, turned around to walk backwards so that you could see his face. um, and you passed him and kind of like checked him out to give like your stamp of approval or not. And as soon as you saw him, you let him pass and you mouthed back to me, he's cute. Whether you actually remember this or not, what does the memory stir up for you?
So I don't remember doing that, but it completely sounds like something that I would do. So I was like, oh, I can totally see myself doing that. I think I even still am. I think I'm a pretty good wing woman. I want my friends, to talk to their crushes and go for it. And even my single friends now, I super embarrass them, probably like I'm in high school still. But, it's definitely something I remember I would have done. And, we just had fun. Like we were boy crazy in the most harmless way. So like moms, if you guys are listening, there was no sex, drugs, rock and roll, or drinking. There was rock and roll, but it was like local shows. But we were very innocent with our crushes. I think,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think it was just having fun. And in the end, I mean, I'm just glad that you didn't hate that I embarrassed you guys all the time.
I don't really remember that. I don't think that. And I think you described yourself pretty well. You were a pretty good wing woman, and it's great that it sounds like you still are because you're just always so supportive. Because especially in the teenage years, you can be around some kind of toxic girls. Like
Yes.
it's unfortunate, but they can be very all about themselves or very about like, well, he's cute and I'm going to get him, not you type of thing. Just kind of
Yes,
like
for sure.
sometimes it can just be so competitive. They make a competition out of it when really, I feel like with me and you, at least, we just had such an appreciation for a beautiful guy, whether
Yeah.
it was outside,
Yeah.
inside, both, just one, like we just appreciated them so much. And I don't know if you remember, but a couple years ago, I went back to my parents' house and they still had a bunch of my stuff in storage. And I opened up one of these boxes and I had this t-shirt that you and I had made. I had completely forgotten about these t-shirts until I opened it and found it. And Erica and I had made, like, we'd gone to a craft store gotten plain t-shirts, gotten iron-on letters, and we ironed on "I like boys" to the front.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
And we
I
wrote in Sharpie all the traits about boys that we liked.
Oh
So
my
it was like,
gosh.
I like boys with curly hair. I like boys in bands, which is such a like a boy positive thing to do. But I also love that we would wear those. Like we had
Yeah.
no
Oh my
shame, no
gosh.
embarrassment.
That
We just kind of owned it.
that memory was not in my brain for many, many years until you just said that. But no, I remember that exactly now. I think mine was red, like bright red, maybe.
Yeah,
That
mine
makes
was
sense.
gray and black. I loved gray.
I think mine was red. I remember wearing it with like my black studded belt and like my black Converse with like red shoelaces. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I totally forgot that we did that.
I know. I wonder where yours ended up. Like, I wonder if you have it like at
Oh
your
my
parents'
gosh.
house or maybe I don't
I
know,
would
maybe you
say
donated
yes,
it.
but I had so many band shirts, and I remember I was probably 19 or 20, and my mom can sew, and my grandma can sew, and I sadly cannot. I think I tried to learn for 5 seconds, and then it didn't work out for me. So I remember I gave my mom all my band t-shirts when I was really young, and I was like, "Oh, like make me a quilt." They must be in my parents' house somewhere. I don't know where they are because I never got that quilt.
Oh no, that's such a
Yeah.
cool idea.
I know.
Oh my
And
gosh, you're gonna have to call her up and be like, hey.
yeah, especially now because elder emos are a thing. People would see some of those shirts and be like, "Oh my gosh, I had that shirt when I was like
Yeah,
18."
it's
But
like a Hot Topic time trip.
yeah, exactly. Oh my God, I can't. My mind is blown. I totally forgot that we made those shirts and wore
Yeah.
them probably weekly.
Yeah. Yeah. Proudly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we did not care, which is so funny. But yeah, you were just always so supportive, and it's very obvious, especially in the chronicles that I write, that I had very low self-esteem. A lot of these things were really hard for me, but you're always like, "Go for it." You're like, "Oh, he's cute. Like, there's no reason. Just yeah." And you'd like push me towards, be like, "Oh, this is my friend Rachel." I'd be like, "Oh my God." Like I couldn't handle it, not because it was embarrassing or anything, but just because I was so shy. And I was like, oh my God, what am I supposed to say? But you're just so friendly and bubbly, and it just came naturally to you. And you're like, you're always like, girl, you got this. And
Yes,
I
yes.
was there like, I don't have this. I don't have this. So yeah, you were so good that way.
Oh.
Okay, so during my whole Blaine debacle, I started to date another guy very briefly, and this is an excerpt about it from Blaine Part 3. Although I was immersed in the relationship, I couldn't control myself when Blaine was around, flirting with him incessantly when he was near, then feeling guilty once we parted. Erin, which I should have mentioned before, Erica's name in the story is Erin. Erin assured me that I wasn't a bad person because I confided in her that I felt it so. You've liked Blaine for such a long time, she empathized behind sincere brown eyes. It doesn't mean you like your boyfriend any less. It's just going to take a little longer for Blaine to fade to the back of your mind. How much do you remember about giving me this advice, and what do you think of it now?
So I don't remember giving that exact advice, but how was I so wise? Like at a young age. I don't understand. But I'm glad I said that to you. And, now that I think about it, I think I probably said that to you because, like I said, everything was just for fun and innocent. I think I just knew, like, you're my best friend. So, of course, I knew you had a good heart. There was no like feelings towards it. You weren't going to cheat on the guy you were dating. And because we also saw that in high school, there was hallway breakups, like you cheated on this person and this girl's backstabbing this person. We saw that in high school, just like in movies and TV stuff. But we were never part of that. I just think it was innocent and, I probably had 10 crushes at once. So,
Oh, yeah.
I think that I knew the guy that you were dating. He was one of the guys that I knew a little bit better than the other guys. So, I knew that you would never like do anything to hurt him.
Yeah, that's so sweet. Yeah, about the whole probably having 10 crushes at once, I do kind of leave kind of like a trail of breadcrumbs in each, I guess, crush part in the series, because if you really pay attention, you can see that a lot of these are coinciding. So while I might just be talking about Blaine, or I might just be talking about Robbie, even though I focus on just one person at a time because I feel like they deserve that focus, there's little breadcrumbs so you can see I probably had a crush on Robbie at the same time as Blaine, at the same time as the next person.
Mm.
Because yeah, there were just so much beauty to observe and enjoy. But yeah, and I loved, yeah, you were very wise at 16. Good job.
Well, the more I read these two and the more that we talk now, I remember, so just everyone can know that's listening. I am in my late 30s now. I found my wonderful husband a little later in life, I guess. At least I was like, "Where are you? Can you hurry along?" And he kind of took forever because he's 10 years younger than me. So, I couldn't date him when he was
Oh,
in
he
high
is? I
school, I
didn't know
guess.
that.
Yeah, yeah. So, but also through all of my 20s, I was single. I dated some guys, but I didn't have like a serious long-term relationship. And I remember one of my guy friends who I think did have a crush on me. One of his girlfriends was like, "I don't like Erica. She's too boy crazy." And now I'm just like, why does that even matter? I wasn't like sleeping around Dallas or anything, I was dancing with boys and then going to eat Taco Bell afterwards. You can ask many of my friends and I'm still friends with. So, like it's all in good fun. I mean, maybe I broke some hearts. I had my heart broken a few times too, but now that I'm almost 40, I'm like, doesn't matter.
Yeah, right. It's just so interesting. Like once you reach 40, I'm only newly 40. I just turned 40 in February, but you just really don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Just-
I don't think I give a shit then either. I was like, oh, that girl called me. I was like, I don't even like her. I don't care.
Which is
I
good.
was like,
Yeah, because you can't let other people control you in that way.
yeah.
Because again, knowing from experience, it can really get you down and really make you question yourself as a person. Because I feel like you did get that a couple of times in high school too, that like, oh my God, Erica's so boy crazy. I'm wondering if it came from jealousy.
Yeah, because like I said, the girl that I remember saying it in my 20s, I met her a few times in passing and we would go to the same like bars and clubs, but I never had a real conversation with her. Like I didn't know her, she didn't know me. So, I'm not the kind of person that goes and talks bad about people that I don't
Mm-mm.
know. And if you're going to be one of those people, then I don't have the energy for you anyways. And then I think I was kind of the same way in high school too. Like I have great friends. If you're not going to be a good one, then you're not going to be my friend.
Yeah, such great wisdom, young wisdom in this. Because you're saying things that like took me like decades to like cleanse from my system because I was very like people pleasing. I wanted everybody to like me. Like if you ever saw Friends, I was the Monica Geller.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
just like, you're my best friend, so I liked you no matter what. There's some people in our past, I have probably different opinions about them now. But, yeah, we always had a good time together and you were nice to everyone and that's why everyone liked you. So
Aw, thank you. I don't think I ever thought of, again, very poor self-esteem. I probably didn't even think that everybody liked me, even though I never had any reason not to feel that way. Like I always really loved everybody that we interacted with. Like everybody was super chill, super nice. Well, maybe not
yeah,
everybody, but yeah,
yeah, I think we were smart and we had a really good friend group. We didn't
yeah.
get in, like I said earlier, we didn't get into too much trouble.
There are some things though that I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we were teenagers that did those kinds of things. Like because I was always driving because I was the one with the car. I
Yes.
know sometimes I drove in ways in which I should not have.
Mean, I do remember, now that I think about it, I do remember using the oh shit handle a lot in your car for sure. Like
Like I
it
know
was,
if I got angry, I would take it out in my driving sometimes.
yes,
Um,
okay, I remember that now too. And we'd be like,
um,
let's pull over to this
yeah.
subway or whatever, wherever.
And I know we used to, using this term loosely, but decorate people's cars at night
Oh,
sometimes. I think our signature was leaving like tampons on their antennas. Do you remember that?
yeah. I'm like, do kids not, because TPing was a thing and TPing
Yeah.
houses and like we didn't egg people's things because that ruins their car.
Yeah.
Remember one time we did silly string all over one of
Yes.
our
We
guy
love
friends'
silly string.
cars?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that. And also this is very off topic, but you made me remember the memory of when I was at your house with you and just me and your mom were home. And there was a tornado warning because we lived in Texas, guys. And me, you, and I think the cat all got like in this little closet, like in the
Yeah.
garage, because we
Because,
thought there's a tornado.
yeah, because
That's the
there's,
only time I've really hidden for a tornado ever in my entire life.
I think same. I think same.
Yeah.
Because where we lived, it was Tornado Alley. So we got,
Hmm.
those tornado warnings a lot. But that was like I think the only time when I lived there that we actually got like the siren, because the siren usually meant like there has been a tornado spotted nearby that has touched. And my mom also was just like super scared
Yeah,
of these
yeah.
things. So the siren going off, and I mean, I do think it was pretty bad. Like the winds were high. I do think a bunch of our stuff did get blown around. But yeah, because we lived in Central Texas and because it's a place with frequent tornadoes, the house actually had a built-in tornado shelter. So there it was that little
Yep.
tornado
It was
closet in the garage.
us three tiny ladies and a cat.
Yeah, actually two cats. My mom
Oh,
had
two
two.
cats.
Yeah, and that was before like cell phones were just a thing. So like no smartphones. We couldn't check to see like,
Yeah,
hey, is it
no.
cool to come out yet? Like we kind of had to like play it by ear
Yep. Yeah.
and be like, oh, let's just kind of look. Do we hear anything?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
I
think I
remember
got
that
a
too.
cell phone till my senior year. So it was when you were already
Really?
in Dakota. Yeah, I don't think when we were hanging out that I had a cell phone because I remember talking to boys on the house phone. That's how I know
Mm.
I didn't have a cell phone.
I feel like the talking on the phone on the house phone is such a special thing that I feel like future generations aren't going to get to experience. I don't know. I maybe it's just me being very nostalgic, but it was just so fun to like be on the phone and you would like, walk around, talk on it. Like now it's just I feel like the like novelty of it is kind of removed now because people don't even talk to like hear like
Oh
voice to voice. It's
yeah,
mostly texting
for
or social
exactly.
mediaing.
They say people keep talking on the phone now, and even us as
Hmm.
millennials, I'm like, don't call me.
Yeah.
But why that could have been a text. But yeah, it's cool that we got to, yeah, grow up and experience that. Because I mean, I remember talking to guys, girls, all my different friends on the phone and
Hmm.
just talking for hours and falling asleep next to the phone. And then
Yes.
you wake up and you're like, oh, and you both just fell asleep and then you hang up the phone
Yeah.
later, that kind of thing. Begging your parents for your own line,
Yes.
your own phone. I also have, so since I like Halloween a lot, I'm in my office and I literally have this clear Halloween phone on my wall. It like picks up and makes crazy ghoul scary noises. But yeah, it was nostalgia and I saw it at Target this last October and I was like, it's like a clear phone, but it's spooky. I must
Yeah.
have
I know
it.
the clear technology was such a big thing during the millennium. Like it was a clear phone. What else was there? Like a
The
clear CD player.
Yeah, and like
Just
the
anything where you could see the
Macs,
wires.
the
Yeah.
Macs that were like kind of clear and had all the cool neon colors, like the teal and the hot pink and
Yeah.
we were watching a movie the other day and the guy had a laptop and he pulled the big battery out of the back of the laptop and I was like, oh, I haven't thought about doing that like to a laptop in so
I
long.
know. I know it used to be so easy. Like if you needed to change out your battery, you would just pop it out and buy a new one and switch it out. You can't do that
Yeah.
anymore. But yeah, it's like they were like bricks too. They weren't
Yep.
small.
No.
They were chunky. Okay, that was a fun tangent. So before we were talking about ones that have been published and we discussed in season one. This one we're going to talk about a crush that is published on my Substack, but we have not talked about it yet on the podcast. And his name is Connor. I feel like this may not make sense to anyone except for me, but I was never in love with Connor, but he was kind of my first love. And after I wrote this, I realized that he technically wasn't my first love, but he was one of the big ones that I felt really strongly for. He was also my first heartbreak, and that is true. He was my first heartbreak. We all have to have one. And even though it killed me at the time, I am grateful to have the experience because I learned how to let someone go, how someone can string you along, and to appreciate what was good even when something ends badly. So, who was your first heartbreak and what did you learn from it, if you don't mind sharing?
So the same kind of crush heartbreak that is kind of like your Connor would be same time frame. You know who this person is. She's smiling. You guys can't see her, but she's smiling. We'll call him Marty. He played guitar. You guys know me and Rachel went to all of the local punk rock shows. We were big like punk rock kids in high school. He played guitar in a band. He was a few years older than me and spray painted his hair silver.
I did. I remember that.
He liked all the same goth bands that I liked, like some of the darker bands, because we all listened to a lot of poppy punk. So I was super smitten, and he just strung me along like the little high school girl that I was. And of course, when I finally found out we weren't gonna ever date or anything, I was so heartbroken. So that was my first teenage crush heartbreak. Probably the one that I think of that was real heartbreak. We dated for a lot longer. It was my high school boyfriend. We started dating my senior year. So I was one of the younger kids my senior year. So I just turned like 17 when we graduated high school. No, I was 17 when I was in a senior. So we dated for like a year and then broke up. And we should have stayed broken up. Like the first year was great. Would have been a great first long-term boyfriend in high school. Well, then we dated on and off again for a total of almost 5 years. We even moved to Dallas from the small town we were at because of his job. And we lived in Dallas for about 6 months, and then we finally broke up for good. And I won't get deep into it, but he did not treat me very well in a lot of ways. And pretty much everyone in the world realized it except me because I was young and dumb and in love or whatever. So that'd probably be my first real heartbreak. A lot of times over and over. But I think the last time when we finally broke up for good, I was the least heartbroken because I think I was finally like, you deserve better. There's so much more in the world out there for you. So getting over him was actually a lot easier than I would think it to be. Because, being 17 to 21, 5 years is a long time to be in a relationship that young. You're learning so much about yourself as a person. You're learning how to date. Most people are dating multiple, people at different times. Like you're not just dating one person. You're experiencing new things. You're going out, you're drinking your first beer, all of those kinds of things. So we broke up when I was 21. I had just moved in with my other best friend that Rachel knows, and me and her are still best friends. I lived in a big city. I lived in Dallas from my small town. I was like, what? I'm not sad. I'm hot. I'm single. I'm ready to go. Like, let's go out. So I had a great time in my 20s, and I don't regret any of it. I don't regret dating him. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about what I wanted in a partner for myself later. I do think I was single all of my 20s. I didn't meet my husband until I was 32. And I dated a few guys, but nothing serious. And I do think that long-term relationship that wasn't great, it affected me when I was dating for a long time. I think I was scared to be in kind of that abusive relationship again. I didn't want to put myself out there, so I'd bring guys along, and maybe that's why girls are like, she's so boy crazy. Like maybe I liked a guy, but I was just too scared to, like be serious with them. So I think it did linger for a while, but wouldn't take anything back. I learned a lot. I learned what I deserve and the people that, really care about me, and they should give the same energy that I give them. So yeah, that was my first like real heartbreak.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that you said that you wouldn't take any of it back because, like you said, it was 17 to 21. That's young. And what's funny about that is at the time, we don't think it's that young. We think
Yeah.
we're grown now and we know all the things. And really, we don't. Because, like you said, that's really a time of really getting to know yourself. You don't have the big brother of school, your K through 12 structuring your life anymore. You're really getting to figure out what you want your life to look like. But we also feel like everything should always be happy all the time. But we can't learn if we don't go through the rough of it.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
important that you still have no regrets, even though that was obviously a really tough relationship.
Yeah, I think too, now that I think about it, when we broke up for the last time, I realized I wasn't sad or like heartbroken because of him, because he sucked. I was more heartbroken because I was so young and dated him starting high school. I thought my entire life was planned. Like, this is the person I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. We're going to get married when I'm 25. Then I'm going to pop some kids out and we're going to have good jobs. And then my entire life that I planned out was over. And that's
Mm.
terrifying when you're like as young as 21. And then as you get older, you realize, oh, things change all the time, day to day. There's no timeline. And, I think I even felt that in my late 20s, early 30s when I was still single. Like, am I going to be single forever? Like, I remember my mom used to joke. My dad's like surfer dude from San Diego. So he used to have really long hair. Rachel might not know this, but he finally chopped it off because he doesn't really have anything on the top anymore. So it just looks really weird. But I used to always joke, no, dad can't cut his hair until I'm married. My mom's like, that's gonna take forever.
Thanks, Mom.
Right. And so, I have tons of friends that are in all different parts of their life, which is completely okay. I have friends that are single that are around my age. I'm 38. I have friends that are in a new relationship, an old relationship. They're married, they have kids, they don't have kids. You learn so much at that young age. I mean, we're still learning. Like me and Rachel are about the same age. We're still learning every single day. And when I started dating my husband, he's 10 years younger than me, and I was 32 and he was 22. At the very beginning of our relationship, I was like, listen, I'm older. For one, I'm not fucking around. Two, like I don't have no time for that. And I have decided that I don't think I really want to be a mom. And I was like, you have to be okay with that, or like we need to talk about it because like you're young, you could change your mind, et cetera, et cetera. Because that happens all the time. Everyone's on a different schedule, but we learn from our mistakes and we learn from all of our experiences.
Yeah, and I really love that gosh, Erica, you're just always so just wise.
Guys, no, don't listen to her.
Well, just because one thing that I really think I resonate so much with a lot of stuff that you're saying. So I really love that, especially knowing that he was younger than you, that you had that conversation about whether or not you're having kids. Because I actually do know quite a few couples that they didn't have the conversation. One wanted kids, one didn't, and the other one always assumed they could change the other one's mind.
Yes.
You really have to be clear with that straight from the beginning. I was very fortunate that me and my husband, we talked about it too. We were very clear that, I mean, obviously we wanted kids because I have two children, but it's very important because it's such a personal thing. And if you don't want something that's so aligned with what you want for your future, you really have to be honest. And no matter how much the couple may love each other, you have to be honest and know whether or not that's going to work.
And I told him maybe I'll change my mind, but this is how I felt for a very long time. I will be anyone's auntie. Rachel knows I will be the cool auntie forever. And I love being around my friends' kids, and at my job, we're around kids all the time for photo shoots and stuff. Like, I love it. But that was just my personal choice. And luckily, I found a man that agreed. If something happens, oops, we love each other and we'd make a really cool kid. But we're happy just being on our own and having our two dogs and that kind of thing. Even if he was my age and I was starting to date someone, and if someone really wants a kid, I get it. The same way I was like, hey, this is my decision. It's the most beautiful thing to have a child, and I'm not going to take that away from someone, especially if, you're putting a lot into a relationship.
Yeah. And also too, I appreciated what you said about, well, you said you kind of went through it twice, because one with your 17 to 21 relationship, you thought you had your life plotted out.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like at least a lot of the people that I knew at the time, except for me, I had no fucking idea what I was doing. And I think part of that is because I was moving around so much as a kid. Like, there was a lot of uncertainty because I was an Air Force brat. But a lot of my friends did feel like they had map, like by 24, I'm going to have kids or whatever the age might be, and I'll be married and I'll do this and that. But I also think society just in itself, especially on young women, puts that pressure where we think that there's one template for our timeline, but it's just so individualized. One person's timeline is not meant for another.
Exactly.
And then you said you went through it again in your 30s, because by that point you feel like you're behind. I've had so many friends that felt like they were behind.
For sure.
And that's really not the case. I wrote about that recently when I turned 40. I wrote about how people feel like they need to keep up with a timeline, but it's so not true. Some people feel like they have to meet certain milestones, like buying a house or something, but maybe you don't want to own a house. Like,
exactly.
But we have to think about these things because we're just kind of conditioned to think that that's what we're supposed to want. And that's the footsteps that you follow to be a successful adult, when really the success is really in the eye of the beholder. So I really resonated with what you said there, because it's hard. You got to try and figure it out, and it's hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, I think you unlocked a memory with that 17 to 21 boyfriend. Was he in a band?
Yeah, of
in
course.
high school. Of course,
Yes,
yeah.
me to the audience. I have this history of dating guys in bands, and now I'm married to a musician that is the lead singer and plays guitar in a country
Which is
band.
perfect. That is what teenage Erica would have wanted.
I've always loved music. I've always loved live music. It's what I've gravitated towards. It's kind of the scene I've always been in. So, of course, it was just those are the kind of people I've met throughout my life. So,
I do think maybe we went to a show before I moved and
oh,
might
yeah.
have seen, I feel like I might have, seen him on stage. But did he ever go on tour with his band and stop in California? I feel like you unlocked a memory
Oh,
where the band crashed at our apartment.
did. Oh my gosh, I forgot about this. This
I
was
did
not
too.
not in my brain. Of course, the my high school boyfriend, I met him because we had one mall, which means for me and Rachel, there was one Hot Topic,
Mhm.
and we went there a lot, and he worked there. And I thought he was super cute, and we're really good at stalking boys in our little town and following them around. So I'd go to Hot Topic a lot, and I do remember we had this dance called Celebration. You'll read it in Rachel's Chronicles. It was like bigger than prom. There's like prom, that wasn't the last dance. The last dance was Celebration. And you had to either be a senior to go, right?
Yeah, because
And
it was kind of like a senior celebration.
yeah, and then or you got invited like by a senior. I was a junior at the time and I bought my celebration dress from Hot Topic from this boy and I remember my mom embarrassed me and was like, "Well, do you have plans that night?" And I was like, "My God, mother." I was like so beat red, but I think he had a girlfriend at the time or something. But we kept in touch
We
and
know where
got
you get your wing woman tendencies from then.
yeah.
She was
So
trying.
then I started dating him my senior year. But yeah, Rachel was there. We went to celebration together. But then later in life, he had a band that did a little like to California and toured. And since he knew I had best friends that lived there, I'm like, that's a free couch to stay on. And when you're like a small band, you could save pennies anywhere that you can. So yes, they definitely slept on your floor.
Yeah. Oh no.
Totally.
One of them, I don't know. He was so sweet. I don't remember his name or anything. He slept on my bunk because we had a bunk bed because we were
Mm.
poor college students.
Hmm.
And it's kind of funny because he was like the biggest, like the most like burly of the two, or not of the two of
Oh.
the band, and
I
he was
remember.
on my little top bunk, like sleeping.
I know exactly who you're talking
It,
about, and that is hilarious.
yes.
Yeah, guys, this is a full-grown bearded man in his 20s.
Of course, I'd be like, you can use the bed. I'll sleep on that because I was smaller. But I just remember walking in because our apartment was weird where you'd have to go from the living room, walk through the bedroom to get to the bathroom. So I'm like walking in to go wash up for the night or something, and he's just left out on my top bunk. So
Oh.
that's like one of my one of the few memories. And of course, we thought we were so cool because we had a band crashing at our apartment. Yeah. Oh, that was a big tangent on the heartbreak question, but that's okay. One question I ask everybody, and usually when I ask everybody this question, they've only read one excerpt from the Chronicles. But for you, as an overarching, like from all of the Chronicles, what is the moment or story that stood out to or resonated with you the most, and why would it have stood out to you?
So the Connor and Johnny Chronicles definitely stood out the most for me because those are the guys I knew the best. Me and Rachel, super cliche. We were best friends, and then we dated best friends. I think I started dating mine first, and then yours went to dance, and it rolled into dating and stuff. We didn't date these boys long at all. And then when we broke up, everyone was like, okay, it
Yeah.
wasn't a big deal. But I think a story I think I remember is in a Connor Chronicles. You guys should go read. But Rachel has talked about how she had the lower self-esteem like a lot of high schoolers do. And we were in the parking lot of the music venue we always went to go to these local shows, probably in our cute outfits and our studded belts and our Converse and um these guys, which now I'm thinking they had to be older. Like we were in high school and they probably were like 19 or 20 or something. But one of the boys just had an eye for Rachel and we'd see them all the time in the parking lot and at shows and you'd, I guess, always try and holler at her. And I just, I want to shake you now. And I probably wanted to shake you then. I'd be like, see, Rachel, boys like you. Like this boy legitimately, we don't even know him. No one knows him. And he's just like, say girl. So I that just kind of encompasses for everyone how these Crush Chronicles and us being innocently boy crazy, it was just all in good fun and just part of the night. And it's just like watching a TV show and the girls chasing after the boy and then they get in some crazy scheme of things. It was just fun cruising around the streets, going out to eat with each other, going to these shows. And so reading the Connor Chronicles always brings back all those good memories. We had a good friend group. We made a bunch of friends because of those shows. I
Yeah.
literally went to a show last weekend in Dallas with my husband, with a guy that was in one of the bands, and we've remained friends because of Instagram and things. And he's in a band and they played in Dallas. So my husband got to meet this guy that I was best friends with when I was 18, 19, 20. And I met his girlfriend, who weirdly I've known since I was little. I used to call her little brother on the phone and she would be like, blah blah, so and so's on the phone. She was the older sister. So we've known who each other are for like 30 something years, but we've never met. So that was a really cute meet cute that we had this weekend.
Yeah.
My person got to meet one of my old friends. I got to meet his person, etc. So very
Yeah, I
cute.
love that. That's so fun. Okay, so last question. If you were to write your own story, which crush in your life would you write about and why?
So I'm a big contemporary romance reader. I love a good Abby Jimenez or Emily Henry book. I think I definitely read the story about me and how I felt when I was in my 20s and then going into my 30s thinking, gosh, I'm never gonna find my person. I'm gonna be alone forever. Going on all these bad dates and dating these losers and dating these guys that whatever. Um, or even dating nice guys and me not opening up to them. And this is gonna sound cheesy, but then I'd probably write about how I met my forever crush, my husband, because he's amazing. And I met him because of some of my best friends, and they're like, "Oh, yep, he's a good one." And of course, he's a musician. Yeah,
So
I
right
think.
away, green flag.
Yeah. So not always, but no,
Yeah,
no
that's true.
offense,
Yeah,
guys.
no,
No
you're right.
offense, guys.
I
But
feel like they know. They know.
yes, we all like a bad boy every now and then, but mine is definitely not a bad boy. He's just a good old boy for sure. Good old Texas boy. But yeah, I would just write about growing up and struggling, feeling like you're going to be alone forever, and then meeting that person and having some funny parts in the middle.
Yeah, I think that's great. Even if you just wrote it for yourself, like not, any plans to publish or anything, it's a great story to keep track of. It totally makes sense that you would want to write about your forever crush, and especially because you had to go through so much to get there. You had to learn so much about yourself
Hmm.
to get to
For
the
sure.
point where you could find somebody or find the person that you could spend the rest of your life with. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
so, yeah, I love that. Yeah. Okay. So, with that, we've reached the end of the episode. But before you go, I know we shared it once at the beginning, but if you would like to share one more time where listeners can find you.
So you can find me on Instagram at Erica_Michelle. It's Erica, Erica_Michelle. You'll see my cute dogs and my cute husband and Halloween stuff and Dallas Star stuff. And got a shout out to, you can find my husband there too, Kirk_Holloway if you like country music. So got to shout him out too. But yeah, come and give us a follow. And also follow and subscribe and listen to and read the Crush Chronicles.
Thank you. See how she's just always a supportive wing woman. She's so supportive. I love that. All of that will be in the show notes. So you can find Erica's husband's music and Erica's profile. But yeah, thanks so much for joining, Erica. I appreciate it. Oh, and is there anything you'd like to ask me before we end it?
What's the next chronicle in the Crush Chronicles?
Okay. Thank you for asking that. So, right now, this is kind of a spoiler alert, but for season 2, the Connor Chronicle is really long. I think it's because you should see she's like nodding knowingly because she was there. She knows why.
I'm ready. I'm
But
ready for it. I'm ready
yay.
for it.
Well, the Connor Chronicles is fully published. So, if you've read all of Connor, that he's there. But for the podcast for season 2, because it was so long, season 2 is just going to be about Connor. But we must have done like a lot of crap that year because my journal is I just have so many journal entries that revolved around that time of our life.
Do you have like our physical journals still that like we wrote in?
No, if anything, it might be at my parents' house in their storage. You're talking about like the notebook?
Yeah, and I feel like we had a Lisa Frank diary one time that
Oh
we.
my gosh, did we? I don't remember that one.
So people that are listening, sometimes we would come home from our adventure, the show we went to or whatever we did that day. And for fun, it was us, maybe two other girls, but I think mostly me and Rachel. We would write down our adventure, which I think it's because we've always been pretty creative people. I even played Imaginary when I was little, probably till like, I don't know, junior high or so. That's the fun of being boy crazy. I mean, I'm 38 and I know women my age or older, and they love reading contemporary romance and stuff and spicy stuff and all that. Because it's fun, and that's why we watch television and watch all these movies. But luckily we had a fun life and we wrote about it and probably romanced it a little in those little journals. But but yeah, to uncover those
it was jam-packed. Yeah, but to answer your question, the next chronicle is Johnny. So Johnny is halfway published. And then after that, I'm sure I have it lined up, but you'll have to stay tuned.
Ooh,
it depends. The next one might be one not from high school. So not from when, you and I were hanging out and talking to them. It might be a middle school one, but it depends on, how quickly I can get the story out.
Nice. It's exciting.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for joining. I'm so glad that you were open to coming on and talking about this.
And like you said, if you get deep into some Connor questions and you need me to be back on here for some real life experience, I will be totally down.
Awesome. Yes, I'll definitely keep you like in my speed dial. Not that that's a thing anymore, but all right. So, what do you think? How do you feel? If you like this episode and would like to hear another, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you have some extra time, check out my Substack at jitsie.substack.com. The link will be in the show notes. There, you can check out my memoir series that inspired the podcast and can peek inside the real-life stories and experiences that inspire the topics in each episode. The Crush Chronicles podcast is 100% produced by me, Rachel Jitsie. The music is by Music Town, and the sound effects are by Pixabay. Thank you for listening, and until next time, remember, love yourself first. The rest will follow.